Welcome to the Smart Connector podcast, which helps entrepreneurs generate more impact, wealth, and success, attract others for all the right reasons, and become a smart connector, the architect of your amazing business and life. This podcast is sponsored by Virtual Non-Execs, the world's #1 peer-to-peer board advisor community, which connects thousands of investors, entrepreneurs, and advisors globally. Welcome, everybody, to the Smart Connector podcast. I'm here today with Jarrod Lopiccolo. Welcome, Jarrod.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Jane.
Yeah, great to have you here. So, Jarrod is CEO and co founder of Noble Studios, and they are a creative and digital marketing performance agency. They're an international company. And Jarrod is actually dialing in today from Nevada, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Which is very exciting. So, what we're going to talk about today is the future of entrepreneurship, which, of course, is a topic that many of our audience is going to be very excited to hear about because there's a lot of questions around on people's lips at the moment as to, okay, what does the future hold? But before we get into it, Jarrod, I'd love you to just tell us a little bit more about Noble Studios and what you do there for your clients and what you're up to really right now.
Yeah, I would love to. Well, for all those other fellow entrepreneurs that are listening, I think we all kind of set out on this journey not thinking we were going to be entrepreneurs, but instead we were great at some trade or some magic that nobody else did, and we found a way to sell it. And so mine was, at the time, I was set to be a very sort of sustainable, focused architect. So it was all about physical architecture, and I really gravitated towards this concept of virtual architecture. And so I met my wife, who's a partner. So it's a husband and wife team. We have a third partner who's our chief creative officer, but her background was in copywriting and mine was in design and in architecture. And we decided, hey, what if we started a company 21 years ago that helped us build the internet, right? One website at a time, one digital experience at a time. And yeah, so 21 years later, we've got an office in Reno, which is the west coast of the United States, in Nevada. We have an office in Las Vegas, and actually we have an office not far away from you, Jane, in Bristol, the United Kingdom. We really are considered a full service agency at this point, really focused on travel and tourism, really wanting to focus around valuable personalized experiences for our clients. And we're just having a lot of fun in the marketing world.
Yeah, amazing. So, the future of entrepreneurship. So, Jarrod, let's talk about what's changed in the last year. I mean, I know
Right.
I've got some ideas on that, but
Yeah.
it's been a very transformational, very fast moving year, hasn't it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. In fact, I would say, even rewinding back a little further, like I would say the pandemic, right? When that
Mhm.
tried sort of every business owner of like, okay, now we all have to work in a distributed world. We have to adopt technology at a faster rate. Some didn't have, teams didn't have laptops. They were still on desktop machines. And so I think that's really when this pressure started to really, really affect entrepreneurs, was this whole new landscape that, now we have to conduct
Mm.
business virtually and we have to close business virtually. We have to service existing clients virtually. I think about, the entrepreneurial sort of journey that everyone's been on. And if you're still an entrepreneur and working today, I want to say great job, because it has not been easy the last 4 or 5 years.
No, it really hasn't been easy. And obviously, what's happened is there has been a lot of saturation, and
Yeah.
it's been very, very difficult for people to stand out and actually articulate their difference in a way that makes other people, their prospective clients, pay attention. So
Yes.
we all know there's this sea of noise. And is it getting worse, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We're seeing, from at least a marketing standpoint, we're starting to see the pendulum swing back to more physical in-person meetings. So you're starting to see events and
Mm.
conferences really
Mhm.
on the rise. If you start to ask people where they're getting a lot of their leads, right, their MQLs or SQLs, a lot of them are coming from in-person physical connections. Obviously, everyone's a thought leader now. We all have our own platforms. We're all on LinkedIn. We're all producing content. But I still think the value of in-person meetings is there, and it's on the rise. And I think that's the same even if you're in a still distributed hybrid sort of remote work environment. Intentionally bringing your staff together and having those moments for chemistry and connection, I think are really important. And so that's another great tip is like, if you're not doing that, I encourage you to, because over time, you'll slowly see your culture start to degrade if you only stay virtual and you don't have those in-person physical, connection moments.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And I think that is something that is definitely I've also seen coming together in the last year. Is, as you said, when the pandemic happened, a lot of people didn't have much of an online presence, and there was a big scramble
Yeah.
to all of a sudden start using online tools and to make sure that people had a very strong presence on social media and good websites and now we're a few years down the line, and a lot of businesses, they have that in place. But that also means that cannot be just the sole differentiator. So I think
No.
what you're saying is absolutely spot on. We're seeing it over here in the UK just as you are in the US. And really, strength comes from the hybrid approach, doesn't it?
Oh,
Face
yeah.
to face and online.
And I think to your point, like even this medium that we're on today, right? I mean, I don't know. I didn't look at how far back you started this podcast, but I would imagine that it either happened during pandemic or thereafter. And now this becomes if you will, another vehicle for us to communicate, bond. And just before the show, we were talking about getting together physically when I'm in London and having
Yeah.
coffee and stuff. So you can't just trade one for the other. You almost have to do both. So to your point of like intensity, it has increased, right? We still need business cards when we were in person. We still need websites. We still need podcasts and thought leadership and in-person meetings. So the world's gotten definitely more complex. And I would say that for entrepreneurs that have started in the last 4 years, this is the only industry, this is the only landscape that they know, right? So it's a
Mhm.
lot easier, if you will, for entrepreneurs because they didn't have to abandon other ways of working, or this is how we used to do things and now I've got to do it this other way. They only know one way.
Well, yeah, that's right. And I don't really know because for me, I really started doing this very seriously around about the time of the lockdown because
Yep.
before that, I was actually focusing on a different business and it was much more in person. But obviously, as a marketer, I thought, well, you know what? Everybody's going to be needing help. And my background is marketing. So I'm going to start
Yeah.
doing this stuff, and it wasn't really that hard. But, now I think this whole internet age, if you like, the online marketing age, it's grown up and
Yep.
everybody's at it. They really are. So let's talk about the future because
Yeah.
there are some very exciting developments, really exciting developments in our space right now, aren't there, Jared?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, and I think back to entrepreneurship, I think adaptability is really the theme that we should all be taking, not just last year, but I think if you haven't started that, really take that on as your sort of mantra for this year is adaptability. I think that's the new superpower of an
Mm.
entrepreneur is you can actually navigate the sort of uncertainties, you can adopt things quickly, you can abandon things quickly, you can pivot with the industry. We'll talk about AI, but that's a whole nother opportunity for adaptability. And so that would be one strong recommendation is like, if you haven't sort of exercised that adaptability muscle, I would say bend your knees and get ready and really exercise it because that's what's going to cause you to win or cause you to lose in the entrepreneurial sort of race that we're in right now.
Yeah, I think you're so right about that because it's moving so fast that we just have to keep our feet on the ground and we have to keep looking around us the whole time and say, what does this mean? What does that mean? And nobody has the answer
No.
100% at the moment because it's just things are moving so fast. And on the one hand, that makes it very exciting. But I think on the other hand, it does introduce some uncertainty, don't you think?
I do, and I guess when there is uncertainty, we look for things that are of comfort, and because that allows us to like have some sort of stability, if you will. And one of the recommendations I would say, especially for entrepreneurs now, is really about like collaboration and cooperation. So we're in this uncertain environment. Don't feel like you have to do it by yourself, right? Really lean in and collaborate with others. This is the age of partnerships as we move more into
Mhm.
an ecosystem world, less siloing. I would say it's going to be cooperation and collaboration over competition. I really don't think you should worry about your competition at all because I feel like the landscape is so different and there's so much uncertainty that it's really about bolting on those partners, locking arms with them, bringing that as a differentiation, to your offerings, whatever you're selling, products, goods, experiences, services, you name it, but really lock arms with those other partners and bring that to the table. That'll not only give you a differentiation, but it might give you something, that you never even considered before versus being on your own in this sort of new changing, if you will, uncertain landscape. So that would be definitely a recommendation. And we've done that since 21 years. I mean, we started out as a web development agency. We didn't have, we weren't owning the brand of clients, right? So we had to be hired by other agencies to execute those digital experiences. So we've always been built around partnerships. And that's truly, I want to say, one of the reasons why we're still here in business and thriving is because we've always built those partnerships, always had something more than the competition, always had a differentiation over them. It brought something new to the clients they never thought they experienced before. And so that would be another recommendation, is as you move into this changing world for entrepreneurs, look around you. Who can be your partner? Who can you
Mhm.
collaborate with? And don't worry about competition.
Yeah, I love those messages. Very, very inspiring. And I completely agree. Partnerships can be very magical when you find the right partners
Yeah.
because they enable you to scale and to broaden your offering without you having to have the overhead, of course, of full time employees, which is not something that many people relish, to be honest.
Yeah, they don't. And I think this new world that we're in, I think, and we've all experienced it, right? We're coming out of the pandemic. We had this sort of great resignation that happened. People are looking for companies they can bring their entire whole selves to work with. And so I think from a leader standpoint as well, I think you really have to, provide an environment where it's safe for people to fail. It's safe for people to try new things, that really it's about unlocking the best version of those individuals. Because I think what you're going to find is, before pandemic, people like the Googles of the world, you had the slides in the office, you had buffets, you had bring your pets to work, you had they'll do their dry cleaning for you. Those were all these sort of added benefits. But I think people really want today, after coming out of a pandemic, soul searching, do I love the job? They want to know that they're working for a company where they can trust their leaders, where they can bring their whole selves to work, and that the business itself is a purpose driven business, right? You're either solving some societal thing, or you're leaning into inclusivity and DEI or whatever, fill in the blank. But I think that you need to have some sort of social good, social cause within your company to stand out. So if you're an entrepreneur listening and your business doesn't have that, I would highly encourage you to lean into, like, how can you be more a part of your community, or how could you, change your business slightly to where you're more purpose driven, because that's what's going to attract loyal customers. It's also going to attract the top talent. It's going to increase your retention rate of your staff. But if you're just doing it for profits or doing it because you make a fun environment, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, and I think particularly with the younger generation, with the millennials, the Gen
Yes.
Zs, that is more and more important to them. I certainly know for my daughters, they're all in their 20s. They really care about this stuff.
Oh, my son, yeah, my son's 20. He's in Denmark studying in
Mm.
Copenhagen for an exchange program. My
Yeah.
daughter's 18. So to your point, they, yes, they've grown up with what I call generational wealth, because we all are better off than the previous generation just naturally. But they're not worried about money like we were as much, right? They're more worried about the world, the planet, climate change. Like, they're seeing the fires that are happening in LA right now, and they're worried, like, by using ChatGPT, is that going to contribute to more fires because of climate change and energy use? These are the problems that they worry and think about, and more of a reason why you need to have a company that is aligned to either solving those, or you're adjacent to solving those, or you're contributing to solving some of those problems. Otherwise, you're not going to get that younger, smart, adaptable talent that, like, lives and breathes AI and everything else. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Really, really important point. Well, thank you for that, Jared. So, on to the topic of AI, which is
Yeah.
obviously a very hot topic right now.
Yeah.
So, how are you using AI within your business and for your clients right now?
Well, I will say that I'm part of a network of agencies, and just like all of us, we have our, sort of peer groups and things. And I will say that with pride, but with lots of effort, we are doing a ton with AI. And over a lot of the agencies that I know, when it first started rolling out, we immediately formed an AI task force, and that, like, we seeded it with different disciplines within the company. We created a matrix of tools. We brought in our legal counsel to vet the terms and use of the content that we're creating. We updated our SOWs so that our clients knew when they were signing business with us that we would be using AI tools. And then what we're then, but our position on AI is not start with AI necessarily. I mean, it's a great place to start, but incorporate AI through, into your business with some of those routine, boring, mundane, type tasks, right? So you're really focusing on efficiency and accuracy and quality. Then that allows you to shift that extra time you had into critical thinking, into creative thinking, into strategy, into solving problems, a human connection, right? Don't Let's not lose that human connection. Like, can we still give people goosebumps? Right, that's one of our measurements, right? And we always say, what you measure is what you improve. If we can give people goosebumps of the work we're doing, then we're clearly tapping into that, emotional payoff. That is why marketing works so well. So yeah, I would encourage people to look at AI as a tool, but also look at it as a process change, as an agent for change within your company. I also recommend entrepreneurs and companies for you to purchase and provide any and all AI tools to all of your staff. I don't subscribe to BYO AI, so bring your own, AI tools to work. I don't subscribe to that, and I don't recommend that, because they're going to only use the free versions, and they're not going to be able to fully build, GPTs that allow you to, train these things to get better and faster outputs. And so yeah, so we're very much focused on the let's leverage it for efficiencies and automation and those boring and mundane tasks, just so we can bring more of that human, that insight, that connection, the goosebump magic, if you will.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. And as you said, that's part of the magic of it in a way that
Yeah.
it enables you to focus on the things that really matter, which is great. Well, it just gives you more time to do that, doesn't it?
Oh, huge. And I think what we'll see, because we're still in this adoption phase, like which one's going to win? Is it ChatGPT? Is it Claude? Is it Google? Is it, and so I just tell people experiment. If you don't have a lot of time, grab a glass of wine in the evening and sit down and just play around. I love using like ChatGPT for my personal stuff. Like, I have a greenhouse, so I'm asking it questions about growing and seeds and germination. I love to cook, so a lot of times I'll have the sort of Top Chef secret ingredient, pomegranates or whatnot. I'll say, okay, how can I cook with pomegranates tonight? And you'd be so surprised. I'll say, what's your protein? Oh, chicken or fish. And then next, you get these beautiful recipes that come out of using ChatGPT. And so I would say really lean into trying to adopt it, because what we will find after this sort of early adoption that's happening now, we're going to find that these AI tools are going to start to become more predictive, right? And marketers are going to use them for AI analytics, for instance, and it's going to identify trends and opportunities. And then again, that's where you're going to need to leverage that and then insert the human strategy and the human thinking and the human prediction of what someone will do, and understand the behavior of what a human can do. I mean, we all have new behaviors coming out of the pandemic, new buying habits, new everything. So let's use AI to help us with some of that, bigger, heavier lifting, and then let's apply that human thinking as well to it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been using ChatGPT a lot recently, and I'm starting to think of it as my incredibly nerdy best friend.
Yes, yes. Agreed.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm actually going to be publishing a book fairly soon. So I've asked it to help me with things like keyword research,
Yes.
and it just goes on getting better and better and better the more you interact with it. So it is actually blowing me away, some of the things that it has done for me, I have to say, over the last few months. And that's just ChatGPT, let alone all the other
All the
tools.
other tools. Yeah. Well, I love that
Mm.
you're using it for the book. I think I have a friend who has just did this, and we're looking to do it this year. It's one of our 10 goals for Noble, is to write our Noble Be Better book. And
Nice.
our philosophy is let's be better every day. And so we thought, okay, well, let's start training it. Let's start building an outline. So we've used it to build an outline. We've asked it to go
Mhm.
search the world to see if there's other books that are like this, and how can we uniquely carve
Mm.
out our differentiation against them. So like, what points should we not, cover? Which ones, where's the white space, if you will. And so I love that you're using it for the book. I can't wait to hear how it turns out.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, the getting really specific and asking those very specific questions, I think the impact of it is that it ups its game. I
Hmm.
think that's the thing that I've noticed. So for anybody, I'm sure that lots of our listeners will be using ChatGPT already, but you don't have to accept those surface level answers that they might give when you first give them a prompt. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and I think that's one of the amazing things about it, really, that it never gets tired of you
No.
sort of asking those very painful questions. If you ask them to a human, they'd be like, "Can't we just stop talking about this now?"
No, it's quite I mean, it is so powerful that
Yeah.
but I did read a stat the other day, and, this will be dated the time I say it, but that only about 3% of the world's population knows of ChatGPT and is actually using it. So as
Oh,
much as
really?
it feels like, "Oh my gosh, we're behind," I would take, some, whatever, some stress down a little bit off of that. It's not fully adopted. And when you think about even some of those, like when the iPhone first came out, like it hit the big cities, right? And it hit the tech market and stuff, but it took a long time for it to get to, say, mobile Alabama, right? These sort of more rural areas. And I think you're going to see the same thing with some of these AI tools. But nonetheless, I would say play around with it, experiment. It's super fun. I love using it for just, like I said, just exploration. I mean, everyone's in New Year's resolution mode, so you can ask it questions about diet, and it really will become one of those personal assistants where it knows everything about you, and you're able to ask it questions, and it's sort of like a digital twin or a digital clone, if you will, which could be scary for people. But I always say this: the stuff we're scared about, just it's because it's usually lack of knowledge, or or you negotiate with yourself and you're not sure what to expect. But the more closer you get, the more you realize, oh, okay, it's not as scary as I thought, and only about 10% of our fears actually come to reality. So everyone should take a little bit of, like, comfort in, like, 90% of the stuff we worry about doesn't actually come to fruition.
True, true, absolutely true. And are there any other tools that you're particularly enjoying using within the agency, Jared?
Well, I think definitely, here's what's great. We have these sort of standalone AI tools like the Chat GPTs or the Claudes and stuff like that. But then you're also having all the other tools like the Adobe Creative Suite. They're incorporating AI into their tools, right? So
Mm.
whether you're doing generative refill or fill, or placing objects within scenes, or you're using Copilot with Microsoft to help build spreadsheets or budgets or media plans. I think what's great is you're going to start to see that permeate into everything. So you're going to have the existing tools that weren't built for AI start to incorporate AI. And then you're going to have these very standalone original offers, which are very much focused on AI. And I would just, again, same mantra, lean into them, get curious. I think curiosity is going to be one of those other sort of traits that entrepreneur really needs to carry into the future, is
Yeah.
stay curious, try new things. Don't be scared of them. When change hits your doorstep, open the door and let it in. It's like, oh, like, everyone gets nervous when change happens. You're like, no, I just had this perfect and now change is here. It's like, well, that's where we learn. When there's conflict is where we learn. When everything goes really well or you win all the time, that's not where you learn. You learn when you fail or when conflict is in front of you. And so I just say embrace it. It's the fastest way you can learn.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And I think a lot of people are naturally drawn to certainty.
Yes.
And of course, certainty is a lovely thing, isn't it? We associate that with safety and,
Oh
oh,
gosh.
things are going to be the same today, tomorrow
Yep.
as they were today, and how they were yesterday. And it's a very comforting thought. But
Yep.
actually, change is the only constant. And
Yes.
once you actually accept that, then life kind of falls into place, doesn't it?
It does. And I think to your point, those other words like nostalgia is one of those one words, something that feels very nostalgic, or you're watching an old episode. If you realize, though, all of those things that make you feel safe, you had to experience once first, and then it became the certainty. And so the more you experience in life, the more you travel, the more you try new tools, the more you expand business partnerships, any of those things, you step a little bit further, your bubble grows a little bit wider, and then that now becomes the certainty, right? And so all of a sudden you get more and more comfortable being in the unknown, because you've grown, and no longer is it the unknown. And so that's
Yeah.
it's a really interesting time. I'm an optimist, as you can tell. I always believe in opportunities versus challenges, and I just feel like we're just entering into a really exciting time where we're going to be able to remove some of the boring stuff that was always in the way, and just really focus on the things that are the most impactful.
Yeah, yeah. And as I said, I've particularly noticed it when it comes to content creation,
Oh yeah.
in that, obviously there are tools like Descript, for example, that my
Yes.
editor uses for the podcast, which is just a fantastic tool.
Yep.
And, things like, launching, even writing a book, there are tools like Clio that, they just make it so much faster and easier. And I think certainly for me, I wrote a book about 5 years ago before all these tools were available. And I think the new book that I'm bringing out, I wrote it in probably a third of the time,
Yep.
and I think it's probably two-thirds better as a result, direct result of AI. And it still sounds like me, doesn't sound like,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
because it's taking some of that heavier lifting, but the reality is you
Yeah.
went through all the life experiences and changes, and you've
Mhm.
learned those,
Yeah.
those tips and those, helpful, nuggets, if you will. And that's the real essence of the book, right? That's like, so yeah, you can have ChatGPT, write for you a paper or write for you a book, but if it's missing the soul, if it's missing your personal experiences,
Totally.
right, then anyone can do it, and it doesn't make it unique. So I think we're going to see definitely a rise of content that just adds to, if you will, the crap that's out there. But then when you actually do have something of value and you do have these personal life experiences, I think it's going to plus that up, 10x, tenfold. You'll be able to your point, get books out faster, maybe
Yeah.
deeper. Maybe there's a white space that you drop your whole book in there and say, what's missing from this? And it'll tell you X is missing, and that'll help round your book out. And then you might go out and seek that life experience so you have it firsthand to then make that chapter for the book. But I really think it's going to make all of the stuff better. But it's also going to create some noise that's out there. So if you're using ChatGPT or you're using that stuff to write content, make sure it's got a soul, it's got a purpose. Don't just do it for volume and or quantity sake. I would really focus on quality.
Absolutely. And creativity, of course.
Yeah.
Creativity is the power of creativity and human creativity is always gonna be there, isn't it? We crave it, don't we, as humans?
Yep, it's gonna be what wins. I mean, at the end of the day, because again, I think just like when you meet a celebrity, you're awestruck, but all you really want is to know that that celebrity, you can relate with that person. Oh, they like burritos too, or oh wow, they ski or they hike or they do this. And when you think about the future, it's really about trying to build that hive, right? That human connection, and you want to make sure there's some authentic connective point there. And so that's we have to be unique, we have to be creative. We're not going to lose that because that's what we crave. We don't want to like be attached to a robot, right? Or just to an algorithm. We want to be attached to someone we can aspire to be, or challenge us to be better, or challenges us to do what they did. Oh, I hiked Mount Everest base camp. I want to hike Mount Everest base camp, And so I think humans are the variable, and we're going to continue to stay the variable.
Yeah, but you actually touched on an important point there, which is identification and also personalization, because
Yeah.
that is also something that AI is actually already kind of delivering to us, isn't it? That we are going to be able to tailor our experiences much more accurately. And actually, the businesses or the people that are communicating with us, they are going to be able to understand us and put tailored messages in front of us to a much higher level than ever before. And that is going to become the new normal, isn't it?
And I hope that it is, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to be the average, right? And when you think of marketing, marketing typically targets the average. So
Yeah.
it's just enough, right? We're going to get this person way on the left, and we're going to get this person way on the right, and the one that's in the middle actually is the lost, right? Because you're just everyone, no one's targeted at that point. And so, part of our vision and mission as a company is to provide valuable, personalized experiences, and what that really means is a one-to-one relationship between you and that company, or you and that person or brand, or fill in the blank. And so I feel that that is the future, is using AI, all the signals that we produce, right, as we navigate or as we provide our first party data, is going to hopefully give you a more personalized experience. I mean, I would love for the ad platforms to know that I'm a Canon photographer and that I go on 3 trips every year, and I would love for them to know what my camera setup and kit is. So when the next lens, the camera that Canon's producing, I'm on their wait list, like already, right? I'm on their beta list, or I'm on their, whatever. When it first releases, I'm able to be targeted and purchase that. I don't want to receive ads for something that is totally irrelevant. That's a very shotgun approach. It's like a billboard, and you just drive down the street, and it only relates to 1% of the population that drives by it. Like that is not going to be the future. The future is very much going to be like, I know everything about Jarrod because I provided it, because I'm getting in return a very personalized experience. I'm getting, and then that's good. The only downside to that is I need to also be exposed to new things. So there has to be some percentage of that personalized experience that's, at least showing me things that maybe fit my persona, that are new. Otherwise, I'm only going to know what I know, and then that becomes living in a vacuum, and we don't want that, or an echo chamber, as we call it in the marketing world. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's just I think you're building pictures with your words, Jared, as you're speaking. I'm just imagining going down this mall, and everywhere you look, there is, it's a bit Blade Runner-ish, that there
Yes.
is some kind of message that comes up that it's, wow, they knew that I was thinking about that.
Yeah. And
It's gonna be, yeah.
as long as it doesn't feel creepy, right? Is like that's the key. It's a balancing that real kind of creepy. This is weird. I didn't give you that information. You shouldn't have it. Two, thank you so much. You actually saved me a lot of time, and you got me excited about this next experience or purchase that I was looking to do or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be a very interesting development, isn't it? How
Yeah.
that evolves. That there's gonna be people that use it in a creepy way, most
Yeah.
definitely, and there will
Yeah.
be people that use it in exactly the right way that enhances our experience. But I mean, it's inevitable, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, what's behind AI is people,
Yeah.
and the way that
Right.
people use AI is going to reflect their values.
Yep. And I would just say, going back to, don't lose the human, right, in the AI side of things. Like, really, that is the variable. Let's make sure we're
Mhm.
constantly creating, relevant, personalized experiences between us and another human. That's one of the reasons why we started this business. Is I didn't like the idea of thinking of people that went to websites as users or sessions. It's like, no, they're humans, they're people, they actually have needs and wants, and we have a chance to bridge those together, and so that's one of the reasons. And I also feel like, why we created this business is that when you can communicate, from one culture to another, you break down biases. At the end, we all want the same thing. We want to be around friends and family. We want to eat good food. We want to dance. We want to live a long time. And, we don't want to work our butts off. Right. And
Yeah,
so,
be
and that's
healthy
every
and
culture, and be
enjoy
healthy.
our
Yeah.
lives.
Enjoy the life, and I think we have more of a chance than we do now than we've ever had. Our access to medicine, our access to shelter, food. It's just we are in a prime moment of time, and we should take advantage of it. But
Yeah,
by doing good, right? By doing good and spreading positivity.
amazing. Well, you've certainly spread a lot of positivity today. So thank you so much for that, Jared. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Now, if people wanted to get hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, well, always go to our website, noblestudios.com. That's noblestudios.com. You can check out, what we do, our case studies, whatnot, and you can contact us through there, or just go right on to LinkedIn. I'm on there. It's Jarrod Lopiccolo. So it's JARROD LOPICCOLO. Just direct message me. I love to have conversations. I think wisdom comes from any and all places. The only thing I say is, just don't sell me something the very first meeting. We can get to sales later, but let's find an authentic connection, something that we both like, and we'll go from there. So
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. And I really look forward to meeting you when you
yes,
come to London in March.
yes, I've got it written down. So we're
Okay.
definitely gonna grab a cup of tea.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bye for now.
Thanks.
Jane Bayler is the Smart Connector, a London based, passionate serial entrepreneur, brand marketer, and business growth exploder who helps overlooked and undervalued consultants and sector experts generate consistent, scalable revenues through becoming the go to choice of their dream clients. If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate you liking, rating, and reviewing the podcast on the platform you've heard it on. And check out the links in the show notes if you'd like to connect with Jane or any of her guests in person. Thank you for listening and come back soon.